When Pokémon GO launched last year, it got me hooked. A couple of weeks after its launch, a friend of mine came to me and said, "Hey, look what I found in your home," and showed me a Mr. Mime. I couldn't help but laugh at it. It was so weird. I've never played any Pokémon game at that point, so it was really funny to me. But I was also confused. Why the developers put such a weird guy into the game? But then my friend told me that it was one of the 4 region-locked Pokémon of the game that he told me about the other day. Now I was even more confused. Then why they chose that Pokémon for Europe above all the other? Do they look at we Europeans and see a bunch of clowns? Well, not quite. These 4 Pokémon weren't chosen at random. If you spend a moment of your time trying to figure out a connection between the Pokémon themselves and their respective region, you wouldn't find it too hard. But let's go with order. As I said, in Pokémon GO there are 4 particular Pokémon, chosen between the 151 of the first generation, that you can find and capture only if you are physically located in a specific country or continent. These Pokémon are Tauros in America, Mr. Mime in Europe, Farfetch'd in Asia, and Kangaskhan in Australia. Let's start with Mr. Mime. Mr. Mime is a humanoid Pokémon inspired by, well, a mime. You know, those black and white people who are always trapped inside a box. Yeah, those ones. And do you know which country mimes are usually associated with? France. And do you know which continent is France located in? Well, of course, good old America. See? It's all over the place. By the way, it's in Europe. Though the interesting fact is that mimes originate all the way back to ancient Greece, where they were less of the black, white and mute man we know today, and more like a normal actor that uses a lot of gestures. So it's easy to understand how Mr. Mime would be a perfect fit for a European-only Pokémon, since it represents not only France but Europe as a whole. Next up is Farfetch'd. This little guy is inspired by a duck. But why does it have an onion stalk under its wing, you ask? Well, if you read some of its Pokédex entries, it clearly states that it uses it as a weapon. But that's not all. You see, the whole concept of Farfetch'd derives from a Japanese proverb that translates to "a duck comes bearing green onions," which means something surprising but convenient at the same time. In fact, duck and onions make up for a perfect duck stew. Because the proverb comes from Japanese culture, it only makes sense for it to be the Asian-only Pokémon of the game. Next, we have Kangaskhan. It's inspired by a kangaroo, seeing how it has a baby in its pouch, but it's also inspired by Mongolian plates and helmets. The Skhan part of the name derives in fact from the famous founder of the Mongol Empire, Genghis Khan. But it's the Kanga part of the name we're interested about. You see, kangaroos are the symbol of Australia, even though they also exist outside of the region. They appear on the Australian coat of arms and have been printed on coins. The kangaroo is an important national image, and for a good reason. Whenever I think of a kangaroo, I think of Australia. And so, Kangaskhan has conquered the spot. Get it? Conquered? Because Genghis Khan is remembered for his many conquests. Okay, I'm sorry. And finally, we get to Tauros in America. You may be asking why I saved it for last and started with Mr. Mime instead. Well, here's why. When I had to research the origins of the other 3 Pokémon, I knew I had to do little work. I've already watched videos about them and could get to the conclusion with intuition, so I just needed to look for the details and that was it. But with Tauros, I had to dig a little deeper. And I came up with 2 plausible reasons. The first is that Tauros references Sitting Bull, a famous Native American that is remembered for his courage while fighting the whites' domination in the 19th century. But if this is not enough evidence for you to scream, "Yes, Tauros belongs to America," then I have a more convincing story. Bull riding. Bull riding is considered the most dangerous sport of all time, as it involves staying on top of a bull while the animal attempts to back off the rider. And of course, it has its roots in South America, where in its tradition the rider must stay on top of the bull for at least 8 seconds to count as a qualified ride. And with that, we are done. Now you know why these 4 Pokémon were chosen to be the region exclusive ones. I hope I was able to fulfill all your cultural needs and curiosities in this video, and hey, maybe you've learned something too. If that's so, why don't you click the like button on the video? It helps me understand if I did a good job with it or not. Also, please share this video with anyone who might be interested in this topic. And if you've noticed something that was a bit off with the video, why don't you write it down in the comment section? And if you like this video, why don't you watch this other video I made? I talk about interesting facts about an old PlayStation game that you may or may not remember. And if you like that video as well and wanna see more, then consider subscribing to stay up to date with all my uploads. You can't even imagine how happy I'd feel if you'd show me your interest in my content. Until next time!